Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode, and I'm so excited. We have Dr. Sachin Patel, who's the founder and CEO of Living Proof Institute. He's an international speaker, he's an author, he's an advocate for changing the healthcare paradigm. He's delivered hundreds of community workshops, he's got videos that have been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people, and he's got posts that have reached millions all over the world. So it's such an honor to have you on our show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Chantel. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to serve your community.
So tell us a little bit about your own health journey and how you became interested in functional medicine.
Sure. So, I've been blessed with pretty reasonably good health my entire life, and I've never had like a major health crisis. I had more annoying health issues, and it was some of those issues that I didn't even realize I had until they actually went away. So my journey in functional medicine actually started many, many moons ago, I say, when I had hair, and I was on the news. So I started off, and I'm trained as a chiropractor, and as a chiropractor, we believe in the innate healing potential of the body. When I was working in a sports clinic, when I first graduated, I thought I had my dream job. I was helping elite athletes, Olympic athletes, professional baseball players, football players, people who are just extreme examples of health. And I was helping them get even better from a physical health standpoint. And then I was on the news in 2006 in a good way. They ran a story about our clinic, all about performance type of care. And the care that we were offering was something called active release technique. As a result of that story, which was centered around elbow pain, we had literally, 80 people call the office, during that 5 o'clock news segment, and they all scheduled appointments. But as they started coming in as patients, very few of them, actually only one person had elbow pain. The rest of them had debilitating chronic health challenges. And that's when I realized that I couldn't help them, but I also realized that nobody else could help them because they'd already been to every doctor and every specialist. And around the same time, as serendipity would have it, I started getting emails from somebody who would later become my mentor, Dr. Ron Grisanti, and his emails were resembling a lot of the case studies he was sharing, resembled a lot of patients that I had to turn away because I didn't know how to help them. So it piqued my curiosity to see what he was doing to help these people. And that's when I discovered functional medicine. And I said to myself, this is like powerful stuff because nobody's helping these people.
Well, and there's so few functional medicine doctors even now. I mean, I feel like the number is rising, but it's so few number of doctors out there.
Yeah, now we're talking 12 years ago, so there's even fewer of us, right? So this is a very long time ago. And as a result of learning what Dr. Grisanti was doing, it piqued my interest. And I said, let me learn this. He started offering a course, and I said, let me take this course. If nothing else, it'll help me and help my future family. I was dating my then girlfriend at the time, my wife now, but I said, I never know when this information is going to be helpful to someone I love. So I took the course and I started applying the information. I went gluten-free. I started testing myself, and my health improved. So I got stronger in the gym. Some nagging aches and pains that I had started going away. My mental clarity became better. This fatigue that I had attributed to being active and having a physically active job, that completely went away and resolved. So I got better. I didn't even know there was room to get better, but I got better. And that's when I started my journey. And it became my mission then, to start delivering
others. That's awesome. Well, let's jump right into the listener questions. I feel like I am, even though I'm not a functional medical doctor, I feel like I am one because I just literally spend all my time doing, every free moment that I have. That's all I do is just listen to more podcasts and read and just figuring out how you can get your health to like this optimal place. So, all right, this first question is Frank from Florida. I just got back from France, and before I went, one of my friends said to me, if you go to France, you can eat all the foods that you can't here. When I'm here in America, I can't eat beer, ice cream, or bread, and if I do, I break out in a psoriasis all over my body. But she was right. When I was in France, I ate all the dairy, the beer, the ice cream, and bread I wanted, and I had no psoriasis. As soon as I came back, tried to eat a little bit here and broke out. What is the deal?
Yeah, we hear this quite often, actually. People going to foreign countries, going overseas, especially to the European Union, and they're able to eat some of their favorite foods again that they're not able to eat here. So there's a variety of reasons that that happens. One, you're on vacation, so your stress levels generally tend to decrease. So you have a much better, digestive response and immune response, and also you're sleeping better. Like there's a lot of other confounding factors, but if we look at this outside of the individual themselves, then the way the food is prepared in these countries is very different. The chemicals that are allowed in the food supply in North America are actually banned in countries like France and Europe and Italy and so on and so forth. So one of the things that people don't realize is wheat gets sprayed with glyphosate before the harvest, because what that does is it forces the crop to actually increase the size of the seed so the farmer gets a bigger yield when they spray glyphosate. It's also a desiccant, so it dries the crop up, and it's cheaper than tilling the soil, so everything gets basically decimated. And so you get a bigger yield, but you also get residue of glyphosate that accumulates in these foods. Dairy is another big problem because of the type of cows that we use. So they use different cows in different countries. And the amount of casein protein and the type of casein protein can be different. And also, one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of times we ultra pasteurize the dairy products in the United States. And also keep in mind what the cows are eating changes the quality of the milk that they produce. So if you feed cows Skittles, then guess what? It's going to change the quality of the milk they produce. If you feed them corn and soy and grains, which they're not meant to eat, it's going to change the quality of and the inflammatory properties of the secretions that they produce. So just like if a mother is eating, a diet that's high in grains, the quality of her milk is going to be different versus somebody who's eating a wholesome, healthy diet. So a lot of it has to do with, what's happening to the food, not the food itself.
And what about the beer? What would you say about that?
Well, the beer is, made from wheat, right? So, and barley, sorry. So that's potentially going to get sprayed as well.
Yeah, and I think the yeast too. I think the yeast, some of that yeast in the beer is different because this is the second time I've heard that. We had another question about that. I can't stand the taste of beer, so that's not a problem for me. But we had another question about that where the person said, it's the one thing, the thing that really affects them is beer. So if they don't get beer out of their diet, their psoriasis pretty much goes away. So and that's funny that you say that about I'd love to hear your opinion on the grass-fed beef. It was so funny. We had someone on the show, and it was funny. He said, well, if you think about it, people are like, they talk about grass fed all the time, but they also, cows eat grass, right? So even if someone says it's a grass fed cow, even the ones that they're giving them corn and soy and all these additional additives, they're still giving them some grass, right? So like what do cows eat? Cows eat grass, right? So but what they do is they supplement so much with all of this corn and soy and all of this other stuff. So what is your opinion on the difference between grass fed and then grass, how they say, what is it called when they talk about when it's fed grass for the entire duration?
Yeah, so there's grass fed and there's grass finished.
Finished, yes.
So grass finished is where they're being fed grass, towards the end. Here I'm personally a vegetarian, so I don't eat animal proteins because we don't know where these animals are coming from. Right? At the end of the day, like we have no idea. And there's been so many different issues with meat. We have no idea what's happening to these animals. Right? And, I truly believe that, an animal that's naturally raised, eating its most native diet is going to produce the best, healthiest meat if you do consume it, or the healthiest dairy if you consume it. And, you want to know your farmer. That's the best step that you can take in eating the highest quality meat, is knowing where your meat is coming from, not just relying on packaging labels. but actually knowing the source of the meat. So if you are going to eat meat, then find a farmer locally or close to you where you can actually connect with them. And then you can buy a quarter cow or a half cow, depending on how much your family consumes, and throw it in the freezer. So at least the quality of the food that you're putting into your family's body.
Yeah. So, what's funny is that if you look up grass finished, if you like Google it, some people say that grass finished is when it's just finished at the end, right? Like they've been given whatever, but at the end. But some people say that grass finished actually means that they weren't given anything else from start to finish grass. So, it gets very, when you're looking at that, it gets very kind of muddy because it's all in, the difference in one person says this, one person says that. And if you look on the internet, both of those definitions are kind of all over the place of what means what. And just because, like they said, just because if something says grass fed, it doesn't mean that it's 100%, right? It just means at some point it was given grass. That's why it's just so, it's kind of muddy on those definitions.
That's why it's important to know who's raising your food.
Who's raising it, exactly.
So connect with somebody locally and interview them, because that person is responsible for the food that you're putting on your family's plate. So it's a small task to outsource and an important one for you to do.
Yeah. Okay, Nicole in Arkansas. I feel like there's something wrong with my liver because I've been having heart palpitations. And when I was looking up symptoms on Dr. Google, it said I might be having a problem with the secretion of bile, which would cause liver issues. Can you explain more about bile and how it works? With the symptoms I'm having, it seems like something is wrong with either my liver, my gallbladder, or bile secretion. How can I be sure? Is there a way to tell if my bile is normal? Nicole in Arkansas.
Yeah, great question. So bile is actually a waste product from the liver, and its function is, it's actually quite cool what the body does. So we take, hormones and waste products, and we metabolize them and convert them into bile. And that's a very simplified way of explaining it. But what bile does is it helps emulsify fat. So anytime you have a meal that has fat in it, your gallbladder is going to squeeze, and it's going to secrete bile to emulsify the fat, so the fat can then be turned into tiny little droplets and absorbed through the digestive tract into your body. So bile itself is very important in helping you absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, getting the healthy fats in your diet into your body so your body can utilize it. And bile is also antimicrobial, so it kills bacteria that may have gotten through the stomach and the acids in the stomach. So it also serves as a way of killing, kind of like a final rinse cycle, if you will, of killing off bacteria that shouldn't be there in the digestive tract. One way to check if your bile is secreting adequately is by the color of your stool. So if your stool is like a tan or a light color, or it's like the color of a cardboard box, then that's a little bit too light. We want your stool to be on the darker side of brown, and that is usually going to be an indication that you're secreting adequate amounts of bile. Now, another sign that you're not secreting enough bile is if your stool floats, because stool that has a lot of fat in it is going to float to the top of the toilet bowl as opposed to sinking towards the bottom. Another sign that you're not absorbing fats or your gallbladder isn't working properly is if you eat a high-fat meal and it upsets your stomach. Some people might get nausea, some people might get diarrhea or have loose bowel movements because the fats are not being absorbed in their body. Or if your stool has a shiny appearance to it, then that could be an indication that you're not absorbing fats. And now another outward sign would be dry skin, achy joints, because you're not getting those essential fats and lubricating those joints properly. So those are other outward signs that you're not getting adequate bile secretion. Now, one of the things that we see as a common deficiency in people is B6. B6 is what keeps your bile in suspension. It's what keeps your bile nice and liquid as opposed to being viscous. And B6 is also depleted when people are under chronic stress. So if somebody has chronic persistent stress, they're going to deplete their B6 levels. And then when B6 is low, they're going to be more likely to crystallize their bile and get gallstones. Another sign of poor liver and gallbladder function is going to be right shoulder pain. So if somebody gets a referral pattern of shoulder pain into the right shoulder, even though they don't have a shoulder injury per se, then that could be a sign that the gallbladder isn't working adequately or appropriately. So those are some of the ways you can tell. And if you want to test, then you can certainly do. In our office, we do a stool test, and that looks for how much fat is in that person's stool, and if their fat levels are high in the stool, then we know that their gallbladder isn't doing their job properly.
So what do they need to do? So I know they have different things out there like bile builders, right? Like different things that help the bile to secrete more bile. What would be a solution for you? So if they did do the test and they said yes, and you know what is hysterical? I think we had a question. Somebody said, somebody on our show talked about this exact thing, and they talked about how your poop, you should look in your toilet and see if your poop floats, because if your poop is floating, that's a really bad sign. And so now we get all these questions. Oh my gosh, my poop is like, it's just like, everyone's going crazy. They're like, I've been checking my poop and my poop's been floating. Maybe this is why I'm, not doing well. So everyone's kind of jumping on this bandwagon here. But so talk about that. So let's just say you go, oh my gosh, my poop is floating. There's too much fat in my poop. What would the supplements be that you would suggest? What would be that person's next step?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we want to look at first before we start supplementing is looking at their diet, right? So making sure that they're not eating a lot of, high, low quality fats in their diet. We definitely want to get rid of those.
So like, what about avocado, which is so high in fat, but it's good fat? Would you tell them, hey, they need to slow down on some of that avocado?
No, we would, like I said, we would remove low quality fats from their diet. So, things like canola oil, vegetable oil, a lot of those oils can go rancid. And so we don't want those oils in the body. So we definitely want to look at their diet a little bit more carefully. We'd also, in terms of helping increase bile production, the liver is what makes the bile. And so we'd want to support the liver. There's a great product that we use. It's called LVGB, and it's a liver gallbladder support product. So it's going to have the methylating cofactors that are needed. It's going to have the B vitamins that are needed, like B6, for example, in order to be able to make the actual bile itself. And like I said, B6 is really good for keeping bile in suspension, because sometimes people just might have gallstones and they don't even realize that they're crystallizing their bile because of this deficiency.
So would you say when they go to let's say they just went to the vitamin store or health food store, and you're saying instead of getting like a B complex, specifically get B6, the B6 vitamin, which would really help with bile secretion?
Well, odds are if somebody is deficient in B6, they're probably deficient in other things, right? So, my personal health philosophy is I don't like to guess with my health or other people's health as well. So it's hard for me to make a recommendation and have integrity by just telling people to go to the health food store and buy something. I don't even know if they need it, right? Frankly, I don't even know if this person actually has a gallbladder issue or not. So,
Right.
the responsible thing to do is to, seek advice from a healthcare provider. If you've got this problem, if you've got palpitations, one of the most common causes of palpitation is magnesium deficiency. So you might want to, get a micronutrient test to see what your nutrient deficiencies are, because just taking a bunch of supplements, I think that's the problem these days, is people just want to take a pill without getting proper evaluation. And I don't want to be part of that problem. So I think the best thing to do,
That's great advice.
is to see somebody who knows, what's going on with your health and get a thorough evaluation, because it could be something bigger than a bile issue, right? It could be something that needs, the proper attention. So I would say,
And you can do these consultations with people via Zoom, like we're doing now, or via phone, correct? So they can live anywhere. Because if you notice, all these questions are from all over the country. You can do all these. They don't have to come see you, correct?
Well, I actually don't see patients, so I train doctors now, and
Okay.
but I have a team of people that can see patients and help answer some of these questions. But really, what we focus on in our clinic is a complete health regeneration process, and so we don't just work on like symptoms. We actually dig deep and find out what the root cause is, and then come up with a permanent health strategy, not just managing symptoms through supplements or through consultation. So we kind of take a big picture approach and help that person live their best life possible.
All right, perfect. All right, this is from Jackson in San Diego. For years, I've had to help. For years, I've used things to help me go poop, like senna and different teas. Now I can't go poop if I don't have it. So it's a bad spiral. I feel like it's bad for my body to keep depending on these different teas that make me go poop and different aloe and pills. But if I don't do it, then I can't poop and then I feel terrible. What should I do? Jackson in San Diego.
Yeah, great question. So, one of the main contributors to motility is going to be vagal tone. So, we have a nerve that starts in our brainstem. It's cranial nerve number 10. It's the vagus nerve. Vagus means wanderer. So, it starts in our neck and it goes to all of our vital organs in our trunk. And so, it's one of the regulators of our bowel motility function. And so, peristalsis is that squeezing action of the bowel that keeps things moving in the right direction. And if that nerve is not working properly, then motility is going to be an issue for people. So, we can give people motility agents, like aloe, like senna, sometimes even fiber can be helpful for people. But the main thing you want to do is you want to fix the motility issue. So vagus nerve can be stimulated many different ways. One is gargling. So what I suggest to people is, fill your mouth up with, about half full with water, and then you want to gargle. You want to gargle until your eyes start to water.
Keep going. I'm not going to do it now, but keep going. So literally, you're going to gargle the water.
Yep, you're going to gargle the water until you tear, because
Okay.
you have a nucleus in your brainstem that's the nucleus for the vagus nerve sits next to the nucleus that causes tear production. So you're getting enough stimulation if you start to tear. So you might want to do the alphabet a couple times. That usually helps. Humming and chanting also mechanically stimulates the vagus nerve. Deep breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, and also cold showers stimulate the vagus nerve. So these are things that are going to stimulate that vagal tone. When you stimulate vagal tone, you're going to get increased peristalsis. You're going to get a much richer parasympathetic response, and really all of your health function is going to start to improve. Now, there's some people that have something called SIBO, and SIBO is a bacterial overgrowth that occurs in the small intestine. For some people, it's going to cause constipation. For some people, it's going to cause loose bowel movements or diarrhea. So if, vagal tone isn't, creating a solution for you by getting that vagus nerve activated, then you might want to investigate to see if you have a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that's causing you to have a propensity towards constipation. Movement is also important, making sure you're exercising. Rebounding is a great way to use gravity as a leverage tool. And then if you're going to take a supplement that people can try using is called magnesium citrate. So magnesium citrate draws water into the bowel, so it can ease some of the constipation issues people have.
All right. This is from Lexi in Norfolk. I've been having sharp pains in my heart, and when I Googled all the rest of my symptoms, I read something that this could be a gallbladder issue. How could my heart be affected by my gallbladder? This doesn't even make sense. Is this possible? Okay, so let's look at this picture. Liver makes bile all the time, and it literally trickles down the tubes that lead into the small intestines. But there's this little valve that's closed when you're not eating. what happens is the bile will back up and it drops into the gallbladder when you're not eating. So it's just stored there and it's concentrated. So when you do eat it, when you do eat any kind of fat, a steak or fried food, as soon as you eat those foods, it basically squeezes some bile out. And that valve opens up, and then the bile helps the digestion of all that fatty foods. And so sometimes the gallbladder concentrates it so much that it solidifies and it turns into these little gallstones. And these gallstones could be literally the size of sand, or it could be all the way to the size of a golf ball. And when that gallbladder tries to shoot out the bile, if there's stones in there, the stones can get stuck in that neck of the gallbladder of the valve leading into the intestines. And that's where you'll get that pain. And it's not really chest pain. It's right underneath your chest. So it's not chest pain you're feeling. It's just right underneath. It's actually kind of in that chest cavity. So, based on how big your gallstones are. So gallstones are like pearls. So they can start small, but as they sit there, they can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as soon as you eat some fatty food, boom, that gallbladder starts shooting out the bile, and that stone can get stuck. And so if depending on how big the gallstones are, that's going to be the severity of the pain that's going to be shooting into you. All right, Angela in Pigeon Forge. I don't even know where that is. Because of the research I've done, I've completely removed gluten from my diet because of my autoimmune issues, but I'm really struggling to give up dairy. Everyone I talk to says that it will really help me, but I just love my cheese. Is there a way to tell if I'm specifically allergic to dairy? If I was allergic to dairy, what would my symptoms be? Angela in Pigeon Forge.
Well, one of the symptoms of dairy intolerance is going to be autoimmunity. So you've already got that. So that's usually one sign. The gold standard for allergies and sensitivities is elimination. So yes, you can spend a few $100s and get a test done. The test that we use is done by Cyrex Labs. If we were to test people, but we stopped testing people, a long time ago because it was cheaper for them to just eliminate the food and see how they felt. And if they felt better, then we knew it was a positive finding. Because here's the thing, you can spend the money and wait a few weeks to get the result, but in that same amount of time, without spending any money, you could just cut it out and see how you feel.
That's
right?
Nice, yeah.
And not every test is going to give you 100% accuracy. So sometimes you can get a false negative, and that's not helping the patient. One of the reasons dairy is difficult to give up is because just like gluten, you make something called gluteomorphins, which are morphine analogs. So literally gluten is addictive to us, and so is casein. So caseomorphins are the same. They actually are addictive, and so it's hard for people to give up these certain foods. The best way to know is to eliminate, and then if you're still not convinced, then you can certainly get the testing done. But I would say that if you've got an autoimmune condition, then dairy is probably not going to be your best friend. I don't care what the testing says.
Hey guys, we absolutely love getting your questions into the podcast, but we're also interested in your journey. So if you've started intermittent fasting and have some success or even struggling a little bit, we want to hear about it. Email me your intermittent fasting stories to Chantel@ChantelRayWay.com. Now back to the show. This next question is from Leanne in South Africa. She says, greetings. My name is Leanne from South Africa, and I love your podcast. It's a wealth of information, and I enthusiastically look forward to each one. My question involves Soleil, pronounced Soleil, and I'm pretty sure you might have heard of it before, but if not, it's a mixture of distilled water that has been fully saturated with pink Himalayan salt. I fast with Soleil and add it to my water all day long. Personally, I drink loads of water during the day as it helps me get through my fast and avoid headaches. Whenever I struggle with the fast, drinking Soleil magically makes it easier to fast for a couple hours or more. It's extremely comforting to me, like hot chocolate on a rainy day, and my brain seems to strangely associate with this warm soup. In total, I add about 3 tablespoons of Soleil to my water per day. I doubt it breaks the fast as it takes my hunger away, but I'm wondering what the effects of it may be other than the benefits of fasting, such as autophagy. Leanne in South Africa.
Yeah, I'm actually, to be totally honest, I'm not familiar with that product.
I'm not either.
You heard of it before?
I haven't. I haven't heard of it. No. And the way she spells it is Sole, but she wrote it's pronounced Sohley. So, like she said, Sol is basically water that's oversaturated with pink Himalayan salt, which is so much better than regular salt, table salt, which isn't the best for you. That pink Himalayan salt has over 80 minerals because it hasn't been processed. So those minerals are what make the Sol water so magical. So when it relates to fasting, Sol water actually doesn't break your fast. It's perfectly fine to have that. And, during a normal day of fasting, you're going a long period of time without eating and with little sodium. And so when you don't have the sodium, there's nothing to retain the water you consume throughout the day. So if you drink that Sol water, the sodium would actually start retaining some of that water, causing the fluid and weight changes. So the kind of sodium that we're talking about, again, it's that pink Himalayan salt. And sodium is an element. It's not a macronutrient, which is what knocks you out of the fast, like fats, proteins, and carbs. And there's just so many other benefits. I mean, you're talking about increased hydration. It is really good for detoxing your body, better energy. And a lot of times it might just relieve some muscle cramps. All right, this is from Anonymous. It's so funny. Anytime we get these kind of questions about poop, people put Anonymous. I've been taking a parasite cleanse, and every time I go to the bathroom, I check my stool to see if anything worm-like comes out. And I don't. Everything looks normal. Does this mean I don't have parasites and I could quit? When I do these cleanses, they just don't make me feel good. Should I see a doctor for a stool sample? I just don't want to put my body through the side effects of these cleanses if it's not necessary. And how long should I take these cleanses for?
Great question. We do a lot of parasite cleanses for our patients, but it's typically after taking a good history. So you want to definitely look at your history. If you have a history of travel, if you have a history of, a partner that's had a parasite in the past, if you have a history of food poisoning or getting sick on a trip or even at home, this can happen even at local restaurants, then that might be a good indication that you have a parasite. We do genetic testing, so we do a test that looks at the genetic composition of your stool to see if there's any indications that you have a parasite. And then we use certain products that can be helpful. One thing that you might want to do is actually take a little stick or a little Q-tip or something and break up your stool. So if your stool is formed, you might want to break it up a little bit because sometimes the parasites are going to be, part of the stool and you're not going to be able to see them. So you might have to break up your stool and see if they're in there. I remember we get lots of pictures of patients' stools, and they were normal until they took a little Q-tip and broke their stool apart, and then the worms would be inside. So sometimes
Great idea.
At visual glance, you might not see it. So you might actually have to take that extra step and see if it's still there. And sometimes, depending on the product that you're using, again, like check with whoever your healthcare provider is or whoever's dispensing that product to you. I don't know what you're taking, so I can't comment on it. But, check to see if it's appropriate to increase the dosage. So I remember once when I did a parasite cleanse, for 4 weeks, nothing was happening. And then I doubled the dose. And then that's when I started noticing things coming out. So, depending on the product, it could be months until some of these things are cleared out of your body. So you might just have to be patient. And if you're unsure, then I would definitely get tested.
And do you do you sell these supplements on your site, or would you do that? You would get those supplements after you met with one of your trained associates, and then they would recommend whatever it is.
Yeah, we don't sell any supplements on our website because we're not really, I mean, we're not really trying to sell the general public products. We prescribe products. And so it's almost like a pharmacy in the sense that you have to be, just like they don't sell drugs on a doctor's website, we don't sell supplements because, you know, you have to have the right product at the right time for the right person. That's our personal philosophy.
Yeah. And then you'll just, so one of your associates, they would just send everyone a test, right? Like, and then you would just do a stool sample and kind of send that back. And then you guys would do, how long does that take about to get those stool samples back?
Typically about 7 days after the lab receives it, we get the results, and then we can see what's going on down there. And you know, typically, Chantel, when people come to us, they're not just coming for a test, and that's kind of the level of the engagement. They're coming for an entire program, because you know that's just one part of what's going on with them, right? There's things that people can tell you, like people can come in and say, "Oh, my digestion sucks. Like, what can we do to fix it?" But usually that's stemming from a whole bunch of other issues in their life, right? There could be dietary concerns. There could be environmental issues. There could be stress related to what's causing these issues for them. It could be mitochondrial dysfunction. It could be the vagus nerve. So people, I know people kind of want like a cut and dry solution for all their problems, kind of, because they're stuck in that, you know, this pill for this ill paradigm. And that's what I think the biggest problem is right now in alternative healthcare, is that there's people that are ready to sell you a pill at every corner, right? And we don't want to be part of what I believe is a problem, because we do very objective testing. We take a very thorough history on our patients. We get a commitment from that patient to work with them over the next 6 to 8 months. We commit to them that we're not just going to throw a bunch of pills at them, that we're going to do, you know, an investigative process to make sure that we're doing things in the right order to help them. And we're going to do what's right for them. We work with our patients in the same capacity that we would want to be worked with, and not just, you know, throwing pills at them, because there's plenty of people that can do that for them already. You know, they can go to the GNC and get a bunch of pills. They can go to their local healthcare provider and get a bunch of pills. But we don't believe that that's the solution. We believe that the patient ultimately is the solution, and the pill can be a tool, but it's not the solution.
Okay, perfect. Jamie in Colorado. To make a long story short, I was recently diagnosed with MS about 3 months ago. I am only 29, and this was really upsetting for me because I felt my whole life was over. My doctor has been experimenting with different medicines, and side effects have been horrible. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. It's daunting to me to think that I might have to be on medication for the rest of my life, but I want to do anything I can to keep the symptoms at bay and keep this from progressing. Do you know any more natural alternatives that I could consider? I'm open to any supplements, homeopathic medications, and diet and lifestyle changes so that I can live my life as much as possible. Jamie in Colorado.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks for sharing that. And you know, here's the thing. I don't, you know, you're only 29, but even if you're 59, this would be a devastating diagnosis. So what I would say is that, one, you said it yourself, your doctor is experimenting with you, and you're not a pincushion or a guinea pig. And I would immediately change doctors, because if they're experimenting with you, it means they have no idea what they're doing. So you always want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, who isn't experimenting with you, who's asking the right questions. And the right question should always be, what is this person toxic with, and what are they deficient of? So you might be deficient of certain nutrients like B vitamins, you know, B12 and, you know, B9 are particularly important for your nervous system. And so if you're deficient in B12, then you're not going to make healthy nerve tissue. B1 is also important as well. So make sure you're getting your micronutrient profile evaluated to see if your body even has the ability to make healthy nerve sheaths and tissues. MS is an autoimmune condition. Virtually all autoimmune conditions start in the digestive tract. So looking for stealth infections, looking for intestinal permeability, cutting out gluten, cutting out dairy, cutting out glyphosate, which is found in basically any, you know, genetically modified food, and even some healthy non-genetically modified foods are going to be sprayed with glyphosate. So chickpeas, are going to be sprayed. Lentils are going to be sprayed. Corn, soy, which are not healthy for you, but those are going to be sprayed. So you want to cut these foods out of your diet because they're going to be contributing to dysbiosis in your gut microbiome. That dysbiosis leads to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is what triggers your immune system to stay in an overexcited state. And that overexcited state is basically like a fire. And when you have one autoimmune condition, 50% of people have a second autoimmune condition because it's the same mechanism that's causing it. If somebody were to come to us with MS, we would never treat the MS. We would work on restoring balance in the immune system. There's nothing that your doctor is going to give you that's going to make you healthier. If a healthy person took the medications that you're probably taking right now, they would actually get sicker. But if a healthy person cut out gluten, cut out dairy, cut out inflammatory foods, improve their gut microbiome, improve the status of their micronutrients and their B vitamins, they would actually get healthier. So you want to find out where you are, where your starting point is, and focus on getting healthy, not focus on treating the MS, because I 100% guarantee you, if we tested you, you would have more than MS going on. No disease develops in isolation. So this ridiculous model of healthcare that we have that says, oh, you've got MS and everything else is perfectly fine in your body, that's stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever. And only a fool would actually fall for that strategy and that methodology, which is, millions of people are falling for it because, the pharmaceutical company has billions of dollars of marketing that they've done. They're indoctrinating the public, indoctrinating doctors to think this way. But we're soon going to find out that it doesn't work. Like, we haven't cured anything. Name one cure that we have. We don't have a cure for cancer, for heart disease, for autoimmunity, for diabetes, like nothing.
We're just putting drugs. All they're doing is, it's just, oh, here's a drug, here's a drug, here's a drug. And the pharmaceutical companies are getting richer and richer.
Yeah, and we have no idea what these drugs do, right? Like, the newest drug is the drug that has the least amount of research behind it, right? Because the real research comes when they release these poisons into the public and the average person starts taking it, and we start realizing that, oh, that was a bad idea. Any drug that you're given for MS is basically going to be a biological immunosuppressant, which means you're not opening up the door for cancer. So even if your MS symptoms go away, the door is wide open for any other immune-related disease to present itself. So it's, the real cure, there's actually a documentary called Living Proof that you might want to watch about this entire MS scandal. And there's somebody who you might want to follow who reversed her own autoimmunity using functional medicine. Her name is Terry Walls, and she wrote a book called The Walls Protocol, which is now being studied. So this would be the direction that I would recommend that you go in.
Awesome. Yeah. And I would say, Jamie, you should call Dr. Patel's office right away and schedule an appointment immediately. Like, do not pass go. And thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, this is from Christine in Florida. I loved your podcast with Dr. Evan Brand. I learned so much from him, but one of the things he touched on but didn't go too deep on was the harmfulness of hair dye. This struck me because I realized that hair dye is basically the only product in my life that I have not gone natural with. I have a ton of gray hair, and letting them show is not an option. Ha ha. If I have gone all natural and organic with literally everything else, how important is it that I give up my hair dye? Are there any ingredients or products that I should specifically avoid, and what ingredients should I look for a healthier alternative?
You're asking the wrong person about hair dye because I don't have any hair. I do have some grays in my beard, but I refuse to use any products to cover them up. I'm actually trying to reverse the grays in my beard using reishi mushroom. But here's what I'll tell you. I'll tell you that I think you know the answer, right? That you should be using an organic, natural product for your hair dye. If you go to a health food store, I'm sure there's somebody there that can help you find a product that's going to be suitable for you. I know that some people use henna as a hair dye, and that can be very effective for them. You didn't tell us what color your hair was, but if your hair is really dark jet black, then henna might not be the solution. But for some people, that could be a viable option. And one thing that I will say is that there's lots of options out there. My wife doesn't have any grays yet either. She's approaching 40. She doesn't have any grays. So I think a good thing to keep in mind is, love yourself the way you are. And if you don't love yourself the way you are and you want to dye your hair, then make sure you're using the natural most natural products that you possibly can. And I would say, go to a local health food store, and there'll probably be somebody there who can help you in making sure that you find something that suits your needs.
Yeah, and I would say there's a line called Davines, Davines, Davines.com, and it's actually, I think it's made, the products are made in Italy, and I think it's like 96% organic. And for me, that's what I have chosen to use, and it's the best product. And you can actually find AOC Salon has it. Anne Marie here in Virginia Beach has it, but you can go to that website and see which salons have it. But to me, that is the best one that I have found, that's the most natural that you can get at a salon. Okay.
Yeah, ammonia free too, so that's good.
Yes, that's the biggest thing, is that it's got to be ammonia free. Jenna in Alexandria. I read an article about the CBD oil not being regulated and how when you take it, you don't know how much you're actually getting. The milligrams can vary. Even if it says 750 milligrams, there's no way to know for sure. It kind of freaked me out, so I quit taking it for about a week after taking it for 4 months, and I feel terrible. Do you think this is a coincidence, or is there really something to this CBD oil, or is it just another fad? I'm always very hesitant of multi-level marketing products. What is your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, she didn't mention what product she was taking though, right? Like, did she say
She
what
didn't
brand?
say which brand. Mm-mm.
Okay, so a dear friend of mine, Joshua Hayes in Lima, Ohio, like he's a big proponent of CBD, and the product that I've used and the product that he recommends is called Ultracell, which is a CBD product, and it's made from hemp. And we do have cannabinoid receptors in our
And
body.
wait, say the name of it one more time. Ultra what?
Ultracell. So
Okay.
it's a full spectrum hemp CBD oil.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the one that I would recommend if she's going to be using one. It is a direct sales company. I have no problem with direct sales companies because everything is direct sales when you really think about it. A lot of times these companies are going to have, they're going to make really, really good products, right? Like some of the best essential oils are made by direct sales companies. Some of the best coffees, and mushroom products are made by direct sales companies, cleaning products. So I don't know if that's the litmus test that I would use, whether something's direct sales or not, to exclude it as a great product. But the one that we recommend is called Ultracell. And if you felt better using it, then that's great. And there's really no known, as far as I know, toxicity level from CBD. You just don't want to be taking too much. So maybe you can count out the drops and find out what the minimally effective dose is for you and take that amount. Right? So instead of being attached to a number, find out what works for you, right? For some people, it might be more. For some people, it might be a little bit less, depending on what your current state of health is. So, find the minimally effective number of drops that worked best for you, and then use that as your guideline instead of the product label itself, because it sounds like you felt better using it. So why stop doing something that makes you feel good?
I agree. All right, Rebecca from Wisconsin. Hi, I love, love, love your show, and I find it very helpful, and I listen every week. I'm a 48-year-old woman married with 2 kids, and I still have regular periods except the last 4 months. Stressful things can bring it on early or skip it. I experience severe insomnia, usually around the hours of 1 to 3:30 in the morning. It wipes me out not getting good sleep. I'm assuming it's my hormones, and I read a lot about maca and black cohosh to help with sleep, but I also heard that it can make you gain weight. And that is something I definitely do not want. It's hard enough to lose weight after 40. Yet I need sleep, especially with a lot of family stress and aging parents. I do suffer from low iron count and chronic fatigue, if that helps. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Any advice for low iron count and chronic fatigue?
Yeah, so the thing that stuck out to me is that she's got a lot of stress. That's going to cause you to gain weight more than the cohosh and the maca is going to. So I wouldn't be worried about the maca. And maca can be very beneficial for men and women, especially with their reproductive health. But what I would say is that, if your iron count is low, that's going to be causing your chronic fatigue because you need iron in order to drive your mitochondrial function. And so I would investigate why your iron is low in the first place. Iron.
What are some reasons that people's iron is low?
Yeah, actually, I just did a talk on this earlier today. So iron can be low for a few reasons. One, you're not eating enough. Two, you're not absorbing enough because you don't make enough stomach acid. Three, you have pathogenic bacterial or stealth infection overgrowth, like a parasite, that consumes your iron. It could also be because you're bleeding. You could have occult blood loss through your bowels. Some women have really heavy menstrual cycles, so that could cause them to be low in iron. And also, one of the things that we're seeing nowadays more than ever is that glyphosate, which is sprayed on a lot of crops, that depletes iron from the plant itself. So spinach now, compared to spinach, let's say 100 years ago, has less iron in it because the plant cannot absorb it from the soil itself. So I would look at all of those confounding factors, and certainly when we increase somebody's stress levels, we're going to decrease their stomach acid production and healthy digestive function. We're also going to immunosuppress them, so they're more likely to have stealth infection. So this is why I mentioned this earlier. You really need somebody to do a full workup on you because there's a lot of moving parts here. Right? And it's not just going to be one pill that fixes all of these moving parts. It's going to be looking at the person as a whole, really understanding what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their life, what's going on in their environment, what's going on in their body. And that's the responsible thing to do is to really look at what are the confounding factors that are creating this outcome, because it's not going to be, hey, this is my problem, here's the pill that's going to fix it. You really have to take a global, holistic, vitalistic approach to somebody's health.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good. All right. This is Chelsea in Greenville. My local tanning salon has a red light therapy chamber, which I've tried a couple times and it feels really nice. I know that on your podcast, you've talked about it helping with psoriasis, which is not something that I struggle with. What are some other benefits of red light therapy? And do you think there's really something to it? Or is it what my mom would call another snake oil? LOL. I think this question is so funny because my mom, even though she's really big into like organic and healthy and da da da, but she does say, one of the things she says to me all the time is like, she's like, oh, that's another snake oil. She'll say that, just because, there's so much out there that, they say, oh, if you do this, I mean, it can really get overwhelming. I mean, that everyone's like, oh, take this or use this or blah, 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 or this is going to solve all your problems. And so I just think that's funny that her mom says that, or what my mom would call another snake oil. So what's your opinion on the red light therapy chambers and just red light therapy in general?
So I come from kind of a biohacking world, and, red light therapy is used quite extensively by people who are looking to, improve healing, improve circulation, help with weight loss, muscle recovery, joint pain, even thyroid function. So there's a lot. Skin health is another thing that improves. So, there's a lot of benefits to red light. And, the only way to know is if you're going to benefit from it is to use it yourself. And there's a ton of research on red light therapy. So it's not something that it can seem snake oilish because there's a lot of different companies now that are making red lights and maybe making ridiculous claims, but there's a lot of research and evidence to back it up. And it's a very safe intervention as well. So it's much safer than some of the other things people are doing. Because it's just simply a light therapy, and I personally don't use a red light. I use an infrared sauna myself, and I use.
How often are you using that infrared sauna?
3 times a week.
That's awesome. I know. One of the things that I said, a good friend of mine had cancer, and she just recovered from breast cancer. But one of the things I said to her that it just makes a lot of sense, that the infrared sauna, the thing I love about that is that, when I leave there, I'm just like, I get out of there and I'm literally dripping with sweat. And, the thing about it is that if you are sweating like that, you're taking all those toxins out of your body. And it's just so, so important. And I think a lot of us are just not sweating like we need to. And so I just think a great question to ask yourself every day is, what am I doing to sweat out these toxins out of my body? Because there's so many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sweating is excellent. So, near, mid, and far infrared, that combination is going to be quite powerful for somebody who's looking to do some deep healing. So I would definitely encourage that.
Right. This is our last question. Jennifer in Rhode Island. I heard a podcast that said I should not juice because it removes the fiber and I should be drinking smoothies. But the next podcast I listened to says you need to juice, juice, juice. It's the best thing for you. I know you talk about drinking green juices and feeling good. What is your opinion on juices versus smoothies?
Well, I mean, juices are going to cut out the fiber. So that could be a potential challenge for people. So if you are going to be juicing fruits, then just keep in mind that there's going to be a big spike in your blood sugar. It's going to come back down, and assuming you're healthy, it's not going to be too much of a problem. A smoothie is going to be something that includes the fiber. So, I would recommend juicing vegetables and then making smoothies with fruits, because then you get the fiber and you get, a better balance in your blood sugar that way. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I have started drinking just because I have such a problem with pooping that for me, I will juice. I juice celery juice. I juice like just straight spinach juice. I take half celery and half spinach. So when I am gonna juice, I'll drink just celery juice by itself, which really increases my stomach acid. And then I'll take half celery and half spinach, and that's it. Just the combination of those two, and I'll juice that. But everything else, I'm gonna have in a smoothie because I need the fiber to help me poop. So. Well, Dr. Patel, it was such an honor to have you on the show. And tell folks if they want to. I mean, everyone that was on these questions, I feel like every one of them we need to write back and say, get to Dr. Patel's website immediately and schedule something right away. So, talk about how someone can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. The best thing to do, is to actually go to our website. If you go to www.becomeproof.com, at the top of the page, you'll see an opt-in, and we give away our 30 best tips. So our ultimate objective is to keep people out of our office instead of coming into us first, so that we know they're taking the best care of themselves possible. So our 30-day program is absolutely free. You get free tips from me every day for 30 days. Start incorporating those. If you feel awesome, great. If you don't, then call our office and we can set up a time to speak and connect with you to figure out what we can do and how we can partner to help you feel your best.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We really enjoyed having you. And if you have a question that you want answered, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. See you guys next time. Thanks for being on the show. Bye-bye. Bye.